What you don't do is spit in the mouth of the thing that's helping you survive now. Your job is your first business partner. Before anybody else believe in your goals, before anybody else believe in your dreams, you believe in yourself. Now the job is going to pay you. Your job is going to pay you to act on that belief. Your job is actually paying you not to come back to work next week. Your job is paying you to find out what is it out there greater than what you have now. But we've been lulled into a sleep of thinking that the job purpose is to pay bills. Now, go through the weekend, hang out, get charged back up, do whatever you got to do just to get ready to go to work and pay bills again and repeat the cycle for 30, 40 years. That's not what it's about. That's nowhere near what it's about. What it's about, the job is paying you to take the salary to invest in yourself first, pay your bills second.
Yo, grace and peace, and welcome to an episode of the Legacy Inspired Podcast, where I am your host, Randy. Listen, on today's podcast, this is going to be an interview style. I know you're used to me doing talking head, but I wanted to segment a portion of this podcast to do some interviewing, because this podcast is definitely for new and aspiring entrepreneurs that are working 9 to 5, just like myself, working 9 to 5, trying to figure it out and trying to transition from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. God has called you to entrepreneurship. You got this pull to do something entrepreneurial related. And so the guest that I have on this show today needs no introduction. He needs no introduction. He is an educator. He is an entrepreneur. He's a real estate investor. Anything related to living trust, anything to as it relates to creating and developing and producing a legacy, he's doing that. And he is the epitome of migrating or transitioning from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. I introduce to some and present to others none other than my friend, my brother, my mentor, none other than Storm Leroy, the employed millionaire.
Man.
What's going on, man?
I'm like, who he talking about? He ain't talking about me.
Yeah.
He's definitely not talking about me. He definitely not talking about me, man. Not like that, man. I appreciate you, man.
Man, my pleasure, man. And you deserve it, man, for all you have done, not only for the culture, but I'm sure even for your family. And you're inspiration to me. You're inspiration to me, man. And man, we're gonna just go in here and just crack it open, man. We're gonna crack it open, man. Just go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Tell the people who you are for those that don't know who you are.
Yeah. I'm Storm Leroy, better known as the employed millionaire from Brooklyn, New York. I started out and got my notice in this space by taking my job, which is your first business partner, taking your job, taking my salary, and I started buying out-of-state real estate in 2015. I started buying property that I didn't have to see, touch, or manage. And I realized that the value wasn't me buying property. The value was in me buying time. I was buying my time back from the job. So once I got that first property, I was like, man, this was easy. First property was in Indianapolis. It was $8,000 down payment on a $40,000 house. And I was making $6,000 a year return. And I said, wow. You know, this is coming from somebody who bought a property in New York back in 1999 when it was like $350,000. But now the property was worth, almost $2 million. Like nobody can afford, nobody with a real job of making a decent salary can afford a brownstone in Brooklyn, New York. Those that are buying buying brownstones, they well off. They not renting them out. They ain't worrying about the mortgage. So once I started, buying property out of state, I realized my money was going further. And it allowed me to make a greater percentage So I went on to buy over 30 properties while working at Verizon. And I walked in one day on Verizon a few years later on Instagram, and I left my job. And it was all due to my salary and understanding group economics and a partnership. People under the belief that you can't afford real estate because you may live in an area where real estate is expensive. But I'm here to tell you, real estate is everywhere. You can afford real estate. There's $40,000, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 properties out there that you can buy. And don't let no one tell you that you can't afford to get in real estate, or you need to manage the real estate, or you need to go see the real estate. I'm here to tell you that's another lie. Most real estate investors that have hundreds of properties, hundreds of doors, do we think they fly all over the country and go see these properties? No. They look at the numbers, they have somebody manage them, and they let them know that property is a viable business. And that's when they buy all these properties, and it changed their life. And once I got on Instagram and I started talking about buying properties out of state, not seeing them, I got a little buzz. But then I started talking about me reading the Rockefeller Trust from 1934. And this is how me and you connected. I started talking about, I read the Rockefeller Trust from 1934.
Right.
I went and got my first trust done. And we can do it by using a life insurance policy. I got on a whiteboard and broke down how you could take a $500,000 life insurance and leave your kids $14 million, your fourth generation. And that video just went. And then, my partner Ashcash introduced me into the space of social media. But yeah, me and you connected from your remix of my video. And I was so impressed and laughing so hard on the flight. Wow. I said, I got to reach out to my guy.
Wow. Yeah. And I appreciate that, man, because I haven't been too long started following you. And I'm always under the understanding that you never graduate from the seat of a student. And so you're always learning. And so I'm always trying to find out who can I connect to that know more than I do. And I saw you are connected to a lot of the circle of influencers that I follow. I'm like, Storm Leroy, employed millionaire. Oh, let me check him out. And back in November, that's when I did the remix of the video, and that thing went unnecessarily viral. I told my wife, I said, this doesn't make sense. And the reason I said it was unnecessary because people was following me. I don't even know who these people were. A lot of them were bots. And then you was like, Owens, you famous. I'm like, what? Then I found out people was taking my name and following other people. Bots was getting my name. I'm like, man, did I make it really? I literally had to cut it off, man. And yes, it was all in joking and gesture. But what you said in that video really transformed the way that I think.
Yeah. Wow.
And my question to you is why real estate?
Well, for me, my father, he worked hard, very, very hard. He worked construction worker back in the 70s. He would be what they call a day laborer. He'd go to the construction site and, he would hope he would get picked to work that day on the construction site. My father's a very strong man. And he would always grind and work and then come home. He would have me take his boots off, have to take his muddy boots off. So one day while working at the construction site to build Woodhall Hospital, he actually got caved in, digging a ditch. So he got caved in from the chest down. So remember, this is the 70s. He wasn't even supposed to be working there. He wasn't on no union. So they brought him home, covered in mud, in pain, sat him at the kitchen table. He still called me in, take his boots off. So I'm probably about 8 years old. Take his boots off. He looks down at me. He says, do you know why I have you take my boots off? I says, no. He says, because I don't ever want you to go through what you see me going through. So that hit me like a ton of bricks. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow, I'm young, but I'm seeing that my father's eyes is watering. He's giving me a message. Right. You know what I mean? So as I got older, I started to understand that the message he was giving me is that hard work doesn't pay off. I repeat, hard work does not pay off. Because when you think of pay off, you think of something rewarding you for the years of doing something. Hard work pays you with knowledge and experience. Hard work doesn't pay you that thing where you think is the ultimate payoff. You can learn how to drive a forklift, pick up boxes, put it on the top shelf. You could be the best one who ever done it. You can learn in 8 months how to maneuver that forklift, how to put it up there, 8 months. But you can do that thing for 10 years. You don't have 10 years of experience. You have 8 years of experience. You have 8 months of experience. You just kept doing it for 10 years over and over and over again. The misconception is that we are getting more knowledge from the job that we're doing consistently, when really you're not. Hard work makes you tired. Hard work makes you frustrated. Hard work makes you complacent. That's the message he was giving me, was don't settle for just doing hard work. He didn't want me to be like him. We assume our parents want us to be like them. We assume that our parents telling us, I'm so proud of you. You became just like me. And yet, my father and my mother would literally, I know they'd tell me, we proud you didn't become like us. Because that wasn't why they came here. That's not why they went through the struggle and strife from coming from South Carolina, going through what they've been through for just to be another version of them. My father had a low-level education. My mother had a higher education than him, and taught my father a lot of reading and writing coming from the South. And I understood that for him, it was real estate, because we weren't able to own our home in the 70s, even though there was the Housing Fair Act, which went in play, I think, 1968, where they couldn't discriminate, but they still was discriminating. It was redlining. We weren't allowed to get mortgages. You weren't allowed to. So I watched the torment of everybody in the neighborhood not be able to own, neighborhoods get trashed. So when I was able to buy my first piece of property, it was a feat. It was like, wow, I did something. My dad would be proud of me. I bought that first brownstone. I gutted out, did the renovations. But while doing this property, I realized I was dedicating so much time to be on this job site, gutting this, having contractors. I almost lost the job that allowed me to get the property. The same job that paid me to be able to get my credit score up, the same job that paid me to be able to get my credit score high enough to get a loan, the same job that gave me the weekends and nights off to go to do this construction, I almost lost the thing. So I said I had to choose. And what I chose was work, because there's no way I'm not going to have a job and have this one piece of property to fund it. So now, once I bought that property, I understood the value of passive cash flow. The one property was making me money I didn't have to get up and go get. I said, damn, how do I do more of this without being a landlord? Because no one tells us about the secrets of the turmoil of being a landlord. They could tell us everything great about real estate, which is true. Buy real estate, it changed your life, it changed your legacy, it does this, it does that. But nobody want to share those horror stories about being a landlord. You know who shares horror stories about being a landlord? Other landlords to another landlord. We won't tell the other person, look, if you could get into real estate, do it without becoming a landlord. Because now, I already had a job. I already had a supervisor. Now I had 2 other people that were telling me what to do, telling me when they was going to give me money, telling me to come do this, come do that. That's when I ventured out and I looked into out-of-state real estate, and it changed my life. But what inspired me was really my father and wanting to have freedom from work.
Wow. Storm, I think that's remarkable. I think that's remarkable because a lot of people have a misconception about real estate. And for you to break it down to its lowest common denominator and really talk about the hardship of it and the success of it at the same time, I think that needs to be heard. I think that needs to be said because of the misconception about real estate. I want to take the conversation a little further because our listeners is going to be comprised of new and aspiring entrepreneurs. I come from a Christian background, believers, and things of that nature. So a lot of my audience is going to be coming from the church and things of that nature, and also out of the church. And so I really want to tailor this conversation to those entrepreneurs that are trying to figure it out. They're trying to
Mm.
figure it out. And I think you have the game. I think you have the sauce. I think you have the hacks. I think you know the secrets of how to transition from point A to point B. And I
Yes.
want you to talk a little bit about this. You said you bought your first brownstone. How much did you make from that? Do you remember?
I didn't make a lot of money, right?
Okay.
What I did was, in actuality, I wasn't making any money. Let me tell you why I wasn't making any
I'm
money. It
glad
was a
you saying that. I'm glad you're saying that because a lot of people think when they start something, they're supposed to become successful right overnight. So I'm glad you're being transparent with that.
I was house hacking. You
Mhm.
know, I had the tenant paying me rent, and the rent was covering a portion of the mortgage, which allowed me to not have to come out of my pocket for an entire mortgage. Like I literally was probably paying $400 on my mortgage, but I had the property building equity. You know, it's like, man, I can either be paying 400 to own, or I could be paying $1,200 to rent. The choice was coming out of my pocket for $400. That was it. So when you're house hacking, which house hacking, for those that don't know, is when you buy a duplex and somebody else is paying a good portion of the mortgage. Now you're just coming out of pocket paying a little bit of that mortgage. But
Mhm.
house hacking doesn't necessarily mean you're living rent free.
Mhm.
That one apartment will not 80, 90% of the times pay for the entire mortgage. But guess what? You're paying less than you were paying rent, and you're now gaining equity in a property. So that was the key for me. I wasn't really doing numbers like that. But see, what it was, and I'm gonna go into the entrepreneurial side of it. I didn't have the intent to be an entrepreneur. I had the intent of being more than I was portrayed or I was told by the job telling me I can be. And that's a lot of us out there.
Mhm.
You know, I tell everyone, I don't want to hear about mindset. Mindset is cool. Mindset ain't the beginning. We all start from a belief. You have to believe before you do anything else. Before the word mindset became fashionable, it started with you believing you deserved more than you were getting. You were greater than what you are, and you deserve to get paid more than what the job was paying you. The belief. Now, when you get the belief, you need to act on that belief to now put the things in place. And the thing that you must do is find out what is it that you have where you can grow on that thing to now provide yourself an income, not quitting the job. Entrepreneurs need to stop thinking you need to quit your job to become a great entrepreneur. You need to definitely stop thinking you need to jump out the nest and learn to fly on the way down. That's a fool's dream.
That's
A
a bar.
fool's dream. What you don't do is spit in the mouth of the thing that's helping you survive now. You don't do that.
Go
Your
on. Go
job
on.
is your first business partner. Before
Mhm.
anybody else believe in your goals, before anybody else believe in your dreams, you believe in yourself. Now the job is going to pay you. Your job is going to pay you to act on that belief. Many of us do not understand, and I want y'all to hear this, man. Right?
Let's talk about it.
Your
Talk about
job
it.
actually Your job is actually paying you not to come back to work next week. Your job is paying you to find out what is it out there greater than what you have now. But we've been lulled into a sleep of thinking that the job purpose is to pay bills. Now, go through the weekend, hang out, get charged back up, do whatever you got to do just to get ready to go to work and pay bills again and repeat the cycle for 30, 40 years. That's not what it's about. That's nowhere near what it's about. What it's about, the job is paying you to take the salary to invest in yourself first, pay your bills second. Now, people are like, oh man, but when I pay bills, I only got so much money left. You know why? Because you're taking the money that you're supposed to invest in yourself and you invest in the things to help pacify you through work. You're able to pay a $300 cable bill, $200 and something cell phone bill. You want to save up $2,000 to go take you a trip. You want to go get a car to make car payments to drive your dream car to your nightmare job. But you don't want to take the same money that you're paying on that car note to invest in doing a business, to invest in yourself. You're allowing yourself to sleep with the trappings of what other working people do. Driving to work with a nice car, and you go, man, I got to get me a car. I need to get, how much is that? Yeah, man, let me go get a car payment. Let me go do this. You scratch yourself for a car payment, but you won't scratch yourself in the belief that you can be better and do greater things. You mean to tell me you didn't realize that the job was actually using you to help create millions for them while you're making less than 1%? You have to think this out clearly and say, if my value to them is millions of dollars, they pay you 30, 40, 50,000. If they can afford to pay you that, imagine what they're making on the back end. Take what you have. I don't care what that is. Everybody has a talent. The belief is you don't have a talent. The belief is you only have what they gave you. And I'm going to tell you something else. We've been programmed with the job because it's a part of the assembly line thought process. The job assembly line has been triggered to help you think less, be less creative, less imaginative, and now say, I'm going to come and do the same thing over and over again. When the assembly line was created, the sole purpose was to help you think less and be robotic. When we were kids, we had ideas and imaginations that I'm going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a ball player, a firefighter, a policeman. I'm going to be the first lawyer in my family. I'm going to do all these things when nobody put a cap on what your salary was and what you can be. Soon as you get that job and you realize you was worth $15 an hour, now you striving to get to 18, to 20, to 30, to 40. Imagination to be a millionaire went right out the window. Why is that? Because your time isn't worth money. No, your time is worth the money that somebody is paying you. You just chose to accept the money that they gave you. You are a millionaire. You right now who are thinking, man, I can't wait to get that $5 raise. You're letting them dictate that you're only worth an extra $5. Any talent you have, if you learn how to open up laundromats, if you learn how to become a great podcaster, if you learn how to fix engines, if you learn how to be creative and write a book, anything you've learned, somebody will pay you for that knowledge. You just need to learn how to package that into an offer to learn to teach the thing to get paid with your worth. That's the problem. Imagination dies. I know I went on a rant, but go on.
No. You're going in the right rant. You're going in the right. Your rant is going in the right direction. Storm, you speak a lot about your father and you pay homage there. How has your mother, if you don't mind me asking, how has your mother shaped your mentality?
Yeesh, man, you trying to get me to water up, girl.
Man.
Let me tell you, man. I did this post. We were coming back from an event I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about families, mothers and stuff. And I was like, listen, man, my mother never told me she loved me until I was in my 20s. And once I said that, a lot of people start thinking about when their mother told them they loved them. And they said, I can't remember my mother telling me she loved me until I got older. Like I said, I understand why. My mother, her mother was only one generation away from slavery. So my mother's grandmother was a slave. She could not tell my mother's mother she loved her for the fear of taking her being taken away from her, right? So now my grandmother wasn't telling my mother she loved her because her mother never told her, because from slavery, they were taking their children. So my mother had this ingrained in her that you don't tell nobody you love you. You don't tell your children you love you. You don't tell people you love you, because she never was told that her mother loved her. So I understood once I got older, my mother got used to seeing me and like, he's not going nowhere. She started telling me she loved me. And I tell people, I watched my mother come out of this cocoon. My brother My older brother would tell me stories about my mother bring up stuff. My mother had dreams of becoming a model, had these pictures, and we would see those. I'm like, but she had to let that go because at 14, my mother got pregnant at 15 years old, married at 14. In South Carolina, this was legal. Married an older man who came from the military to my mother's parents and said, I want to marry your daughter and take her with me back to New York. Like, that was the mecca for people coming out of slavery to make it back to the East. That was the thing. Could you imagine a 14-year-old girl having a grown man come to her parents, say, I want to marry your daughter? And then the mother and the father looking, going, that's the best thing we could hope for you. How does a 14-year-old says, what does this mean? Where am I going? How I love this man? I'm 14 years old, come to New York? That's why my mother gave sacrifice the biggest thing she had, her childhood. She could never do no wrong in anything to hurt me. She could never say anything, because we have to understand what our parents and our grandparents and what they endured for us to speak freely the way we speak. So that's the role my mother played, man.
That is deep, man. That is deep, and I think it is the father's job to give identity, but it's the mother's job to nurture. And I know a little bit about your. I feel you. I feel you. I understand totally. Um, where you are right now versus where you were now. How did you develop this mindset that you speak about? This belief, this mindset regarding the way you look at your job, because there's a lot of listeners out there. They work in a job. They're working a job. I'm working a job, and I'm not ashamed to say it. You worked at Verizon. I'm at T-Mobile, and and I really share sentiments there. But you have those that are at the job that's trying to figure it out. How do they develop this belief? Where does this
Right.
belief come from? Where does this mindset come from?
You know what that comes from? By realizing you are greater than the moment you're in. Like, you literally have to say to yourself, I have not been blessed to make it this far in life to do this one thing for this company. You just have to find it. And the other thing you have to do is surround yourself with people who believe. You cannot talk to people at work about freedom and they reply back, okay, I'll see you at work tomorrow.
So belief
You
is
can't,
inherited.
yes. And you gain a greater belief when you're around other people who can relate to that. You can only pull in the energy of that what's around you. If it's all negative, hate, despair, there's no hope, you're going to start to believe that. You're going to believe that. But if you're surrounded by everybody who believes that we're going to do this great thing, you will become infected with that belief and you will do the great thing. So I always say that separate your work from your reality. Work has never been a reality for me. I always called it the matrix. Separate your work, your reality. Your reality is when your alarm clock goes off, you're not on your time no more. You don't work 8 hours a day. You're really working 10 to 12 hours. Once that alarm clock goes off, you're at work. Once you come back home from work, you're off work. You're not being paid for those times in between. What are you going to do? If the only way you feel you can make money is by physically doing something, what happens when you can no longer physically do the thing? How will you survive? You have to think about your legacy. There has to be a point in your life where you realize you have to be the first one to change everything about what's going on. If you don't do that, then you're repeating the process. Legacy is not just your children. It's your children's children. Your children are right there. Whatever you build and create, you have to look and say, I can set up the life insurance policy for them. I can set up these things for them. But who's thinking about their children? Mm-hmm. If we look at each other, especially in the church, we say we're all children of God. Mm-hmm. But you look at your child and you say, you know what? The children that come from my children, those are my greats and greats. No, those are your children too. Mm-hmm. We're not God's great grandchildren. We're all children of God. Mm-hmm. Every child that comes from your child is your child. What are you doing to take care of them? Mm-hmm. What is the legacy you're leaving behind? Digital era now, people can look. Our great grandchildren are able to click a button and watch this video. Mm-hmm. They're able to look at everything we did on social media. What are you going to do to make yourself worthy enough for them to look you up? What are you doing?
That's you said a mouthful there, Storm. You said a mouthful there, bro. But let me ask you this: we in real estate. You've been in real estate how long now?
Since 1999.
Yeah, 1999.
Changed my life in 2015.
How much have you made from real estate?
I've done 2015 is when I started doing well. Because when you hear people have brownstones and they say, oh, he got a brownstone, it's worth a couple $1 million. You know, 700, 800,000. Yeah, but that money is trapped in the wall. Mm-hmm. They can't pull that money out because you know why? Most of the salaries don't equate to you being able to pay back. It's pulling out $800,000 out of your house. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, the only way you get that money is by selling it. And then when people do, they end up moving out of the area where the house was because now that money can't afford another house in that area. They'll be broke. So they move down south, they move somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I've done well, but I've done better with the knowledge that I've obtained in the process. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is where the money's at. The bricks, I make money, but being able to teach people, creating mentorships, teaching people to build wealth, that's the biggest reward. Mm-hmm. Like I know when I talk about the trust and now people create a trust, they do all these things. They go, man, listen, Storm, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have created a trust. Man, you know the value of that, knowing that I just helped 4 or 5 generations, knowing that I just sparked somebody to now go, bro, I bought this real estate, but now you helped me put it in my LLCs. You helped me create the holding company. You told me all this. Now I got this. Because wealth could be lost in one, 2 generation. All it takes is a weekend in Vegas, a bad drug habit, and a divorce. It's gone. Why would you think you're going to leave that to your children? Yes, we love our children. We expect them to do the best. But once they get to the age of being able to make their own decisions, everything you've taught them can go right out the window. You know, and people feel like, oh, I've taught my child to be the best they could be. And a lot of children end up becoming, unfortunately, murderers, robbers. They had the best parents in the world. That belief that your kids are going to do what you think that they're going to do. No, they're going to do exactly what's in their destiny and in the cards for them to do. And it's out of your hands once they become an adult. Put the paperwork in place and take control of your legacy. Have a life insurance policy. Everybody needs one. If you got phone insurance, car insurance, but don't have life insurance, you need to reevaluate your purpose. Have a policy to make sure your kids, and you leave a portion of that policy to your great grandkids in a trust. Hand that down. Rockefeller, he did simply that. We think, oh, that's a rich people tool. They have money. You have money too. Once you stop breathing, your life, which is no longer here, is worth millions of dollars. Life insurance. We don't want to talk about it because it's taboo in our community. So what you want to do, have a fish fry? How to raise money? We raise money to bury people, but we don't raise money to now buy real estate or now invest in each other. How come money come out the woodwork to put somebody in the dirt? Why don't we sit down and have these family discussions? Like, the time is over. Excuses are over. Execution is now. Anybody who tells me, oh, I've been following you for years, man, I say, okay, so what have you done with the information you got from me? Well, I'm about to. I say, my brother, then the conversation could go no further. I'm not doing this I'm not doing this for the likes. I'm not doing this from the gram. I'm not doing this to have hundreds of thousands of followers. No. I'm doing this to educate people because somebody before me went through a lot of suffering, rode on some bottom of a ship, Jump, like they went through hell for me to be sitting here. Who am I to not use the voice and the power that they bestowed upon me to now not give it to the people the way I'm giving it to you?
Storm,
Like,
how I
I
don't
got
mean
you.
to cut you off. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
But
brother.
this trust thing is fascinating to me. How do I put together a trust? I don't know nothing about a trust. And I'm
Nothing.
speaking
Mhm.
hypothetically. How in the world do I put together a trust? Could you walk me through step by step? How am I supposed to structure this thing?
Get you an estate planner, and simply the estate planner will lay out a simple. I have a company now, employedmillionairelegacy.com. I had to, after 2 years, well, 3 years of me talking about it on the internet, on Instagram before, quite sure before anybody else was talking about it, because I got people pulling up videos of me talking about a living trust, and it's popular now, and I'm happy. I'm happy to be a part of this conversation. But I had to get some attorneys in place because I'm like, I'm telling you what to do, but I'm not pointing you to a direction. Now I point you to employedmillionairelegacy.com. Sit with one of the team of attorneys to set up your trust. Simple starter trust for an individual would run you $3,000. That's it. Married with kids, now it costs more because you got to do other things. But there's no excuse. You get you a trust, you put that everything in the name of your trust. Your life insurance policy, your 401k, your deed to your property, all that go into the trust. So now the trust isn't owned by you, you're the trustee, but the beneficiaries own everything. So when you pass, it goes to them. But while you're alive, you still manage the home, you still manage the business, you're still in control. It's a revocable trust. So now you can dictate what goes on. Somebody tries to sue you, they get nothing. But now the life insurance is in the name of the trust. You leave the life insurance to one beneficiary and you pass away. Now they take all the money and party. But if you got a $500,000 life insurance, you say, I only want the kids to get 200,000, the other 300,000 go to my grandkids when they turn 21. 21 years, 300,000, 6% interest, somewhere turns into roughly $1 million. So now you give them half of that. That's $500,000. You leave the other half for your great grandchildren. $500,000 by another 21 years, 6% interest turns in about $1.8 million roughly. So now you're leaving that to your great grandchildren. You only give them half, 700,000. 700,000 go to your great grandchildren. So now that turns in almost by a little over $2 million. Like then you only give them half, 1.1, for example. Now you leave for your fourth generation. You left them 1.1, another, that's roughly about $4 million. That's from a $500,000 life insurance policy. And I just broke the numbers down quickly, a little off here and there. But the point is, you can do that with a life insurance policy. You just left all of them a legacy. That wouldn't happen if you left it to one person. They're going to ball out till they fall out. So that's why you have to set the trust up to dictate where you want things to go. We can teach everybody how to get money, but we're not teaching people how to keep money. That's why my conversation now is like, no, I want to talk about keeping it. I want to talk about creating a legacy because we've been telling y'all how to get money online, Instagram, 3-4 years now. When are we going to start teaching how to keep it? So that's my conversation, my brother.
What's the difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust?
The irrevocable, once you put something in there, you can't change it. Once you put properties in there, once you put things in there, you designate beneficiaries, it's automatically done. If a property is in there, you can sell it, but the money stays in for the beneficiaries. You can't change it. Everything is trapped. Those are basically good for putting your businesses in. Revocable, you want to put the home, life insurance, things of that nature where you can always adjust it as seen fit. Irrevocable, the revocable goes irrevocable once you die.
Oh, wow. 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 And you learned all of this from the Rockefeller. What would Rockefeller do?
That's the book. What would the Rockefellers do was the start, but that was the book. But I actually read the trust, and I learned a lot more once I got with attorneys because I didn't want them to just do it. I was like, no, send me all the documents and we're going to talk about it. And they're like, you want to read 300 pages? Yes.
What was going on? I want to know what was going on before you picked up that book. What was going on in your life at that time?
I started buying real estate. I wanted to leave it to my children in a will. And the lawyer said, a will? He's like, you ever thought about a trust? I said, I heard of it. He said, well, you can do this, that. And I was like, what? Nobody's talking to us about that? And that was in 2019. I started out of state 2015, first trust 2019.
This
and
was
once
before
I got
the pandemic.
Yes. And and once I got on social media, thanks to my brother Ash Cash, man, that was my conversation. Like, nope. I'm talking about real estate, but I'm talking about legacies and trust. And people are like, what is a trust? What? You leaving 14? What Rockefeller? It just was unheard of. Unheard of.
Especially amongst us.
Especially amongst us.
Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Listen, welcome to another episode of the Legacy Inspired Podcast. My guy, Storm Leroy. Listen, we got to do another one. We got to do a part 2. We have to do a part 2.
I'm here for you. You know I'm here for you. You know I'm here for you.
I appreciate it. Listen, where can they follow you? Where can they connect with you? Let the people know.
Go to Instagram. You can find me. I am Storm Leroy on Instagram, YouTube, Employed Millionaire, Facebook, same Employed Millionaire, Storm Leroy. You can find me. Beware the bots. I don't sell crypto. I don't use words like kindly, as my guy Marvin says. So I'm here, man, and let's continue the conversation. And I'm here. Let's work together.
He's verified. He's verified, man. Storm.
Yo, I appreciate you. And as always, to my people, always seek knowledge.